everybody, this is Eve West. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to promoting a book I wrote. It's called Follow. It's an ebook. You can find it on Amazon.com under the Kindles tab. All my videos, for the most part, really this channel itself focuses on, the topics I talk about in Follow, which is a holistic view of spirituality. I talk about how as spiritual beings we're not just etheric, conceptual, metaphysical, but we're also earthly. And so within the spiritual community, we're really forced to just focus on the etheric, conceptual aspect of ourselves, like love and creativity, intuition, and things like that. But we also have a very physical self, which is related to the reptilian brain, which you can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear. And so I really explore various topics that are controversial, that we're conditioned to stay away from in the Matrix, such as sex, money, race. Race is a big one. And I didn't really realize how race was connected to spirituality, but it definitely is a major factor as it relates to spirituality. And in the Matrix environment, we're always taught that race is, everybody bleeds red. And as the ego, I feel that way. As an ego, everybody bleeds red. And I feel that, race is not a big deal. We all pretty much observe the same religions and the same holidays, and we have the same types of careers, and we drive the same types of cars, and we like the same types of movies and things like that. So really at the atomic level, at the physical, the level of the physical manifestation, race doesn't matter. However, when you study spirituality in the metaphysics, especially, you look at the pineal gland and how the pineal gland is connected to melanin, you really see that race plays a major part in our spirituality. So I talk about those occult aspects, if you will, of various controversial topics like race and sex and money. That we are, that we're not really told, that your churches and you're not going to hear it on television, or you're not going to hear it in school, those things that they really don't teach us and tell us about until we wake up in the Matrix. My past few videos have been about gang stalking. And so gang stalking is a type of mind torture. It's a type of mind torture programming. Whenever you are ascending and you start to acquire knowledge within the Matrix, you start to become what I would call a divergent. And so we've all seen the movie Divergent before, but the divergents are definitely sought after within society and quarantined or done away with, if you will, because everybody programmed within the Matrix falls into a particular faction. Like, many people fall into a particular religion, especially one of the monotheistic religions. You're either Jewish, or you're Christian or Muslim. You pretty much, fall into a particular category, but a divergent does not do so. In fact, a divergent sees past, through the pineal gland, sees past the societal constructs that uphold the illusions of the Matrix. And so, like, for example, I grew up Christian, and it was conditioned to be so. But when you find out that the word Christian, if you look at the suffix of Christian, I-A-N, it means variant or a part of. And so our religions, such as Christianity, are just a variant or a part of Christ. They are not holy religions. In fact, they're quite the contrary. They're unholy. And so, since Christianity is a variant or a part of Christ, it is not a Christ religion. Doesn't promote holiness, just spirituality or a metaphysical aspect of a human being, conceptual, psychological. And so when you get this type of information, you find out that, Jesus wouldn't have been named Jesus because the letter J did not exist during the time that he would have walked the earth, and how you've been taught that there's power in the name of Jesus. And so when you bring these, this information that you've been made privy to people within your home, or people at work, or your friends and so forth, or just people you meet out, at the gas station, whatever the case is, you really start to vibrate differently. You really start to not fit in within your environment. And because you don't fit in, you are ostracized. You are ostracized, and there are many things that start to happen that cause you to not function or not be able to function well within your environment. And this correlates a lot in the Bible to, certain topics like the mark of the beast. And so, whenever you are not, I should say, accepting the program, you definitely will be, the agenda is to push you upon the fringes of society, if you will. And so that's where gang stalking comes into play. And so gang stalking is a very insidious type of mind torture programming. And the thing is that one thing about gang stalking, the types of situations that you find yourself in, or gang stalking situations that you find yourself in, are kind of sort of like everyday things. That's what I want people to know. I have given some really strong examples, but there are some examples that can kind of go either way. It kind of looks like, oh, that person just had a bad experience at the store, or that person just had, a bad experience at their job, what have you. But when you really start to see these instances in an insightful way, and also to see the frequency of these instances, it definitely can drive you mad and actually embellish your psychological mind, and also leave you emotionally imbalanced. And when you are constantly put in a perpetual state of fear, you lash out and you act in very irrational ways. And so I equate gang stalking and mind torture programming as like putting an animal in a cage and then poking that animal. You keep poking it. Eventually that animal is going to lash out. And when that animal does lash out, it's going to be in a very, nasty, disgusting way. And so you point the finger at the animal instead of pointing the finger at the construct that actually designed this animal to actually react or to behave in such a manner. And so that's why I'm really putting light and shedding light on this type of mind torture programming. And so I've, given various different examples. I first started out with my job. I've been forced from 3 jobs, and really at my first job, it was very difficult for me to stay there because, I was relentlessly sexually harassed. I was relentlessly, lied on, if you will, about various things, and, I was given an impeccable recommendation to the new school that I was going to at my first job. And, I was given an exceptional end of the year evaluation. However, when I started to really, acquire knowledge, my principal, she started coming out with all these things that I had done before she gave me my impeccable recommendation. And so that really put light on the fact that I was being targeted. And oftentimes people in the matrix who are acquiring knowledge, and you reaching an androgynous state, if you will, are called, targeted individuals or TIs or what have you. So there is in a superficial sense, so to speak, validity to the notion of a TI or a targeted individual. But the program is really designed to make you look crazy. It's designed to make you look paranoid, if you will, because in and of itself, the specific situations are not totally, I guess what you would say, abnormal. But it's the frequency of the situations, and but I really give some strong examples that really, even if you observe with your reptilian brain, which you can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear, it still looks wrong. So I give a combination of the two. In this video, I want to focus on a few more incidences that I'm going to upload after this video. And one of them is shopping at a, shopping at a, Bath and Body Works. Shopping at a Bath and Body Works. And so, the last video that I did, the most recent one, I showed a tape where I was taking something back to a belt department store. I had planned on making a trip out to Vegas. Originally, when I started writing my book, I went to Vegas to finish it, and I didn't finish it. And so, after finishing the book, I wanted to connect to a spiritual teacher. He's a profound teacher. His name is the Real Merkaba, and he's stationed in Las Vegas. And so, after finishing the book and publishing it, I wanted to connect with him, but I didn't have a chance to do so. And so I said, well, I canceled my trip because I could not make a connection to him. And so, all the things I had purchased for my trip, I decided to take it back. And it had been a while since I had purchased the things, and, they had cleared my account because I purchased those things on a debit card. And so, in purchasing them on the debit card, I felt, instead of, having the funds, go into my account, I would just take the cash. And so when I asked for my cash back, after I had purchased, the item on my debit card, the lady was got an attitude with me. She abruptly told me no, that I was going to get it back in the way that it was first tendered. And knowing that I've shopped at that establishment before and other various establishments, it's not unlikely for them to give you back your money if you pay with a debit or cash, basically. And so in that incident, I told her that I had anticipated closing that account anyway, and that I was going to close that account, so it wasn't really a big deal to give me back the cash from it. And so she accused me of lying and telling her that I actually had closed the account, which I did not, and you could see that on the video. But very antagonistic, very much accusing me of lying, and just basically, making it difficult for me to conduct business. And this is what happens to you in gang stalking situations. It makes it the restriction within the environment. And if you look at Saturn, which is connected to the pineal gland, that's how you gain knowledge in the matrix. Saturn, which is, about time in the material or money, it is connected to restriction. It is also the planet of restriction if you look at it from an occult metaphysical standpoint. And so whenever you're under a restriction, it makes you act in very, I guess that you would say, emotional ways. And it's really designed to do that, to exacerbate the emotional body so you can lash out, if you will, and then people can look at you to say, oh, look at how that person acted, when all the while you've been dealing with so many different instances where you're not treated with respect, and in fact oftentimes treated in very inhumane types of ways. So this particular video that I'm going to show after this is when I went to take back something I made a return at a Bath and Body Works. So the last video, like I said, I had a return and I was treated disrespectfully. This video is a little different. I wasn't necessarily treated disrespectfully per se, but when I went to, well, really it wasn't a return, it was an exchange. When I went to make the exchange, there were certain, I guess you would say, policies put in place that made it difficult for me to conduct business. And so what I did was, at this particular establishment, which is the Bath and Body Works, I had purchased a, actually I think it was a gift actually. It was a gift of lotion. It was a cherry blossom lotion, if you will. And so I was like, I really never really cared very much for cherry blossom. And so I said, you know what, I'll go ahead and get something else that I want. It's a gift, it's the thought that counts. But, you sometimes, if you don't want something, as long as the person doesn't know, right, you take it back and get whatever you want. And so I would never have chosen that particular scent, so I took it back to the Bath and Body Works. I said, I just want to make an exchange, and I found a very lovely fragrance. It's called Rose, and if you have never tried it, I suggest that you do so. It's awesome. But I found a very nice fragrance, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to get a body wash. And I wanted just to make an even exchange, so I looked to see, how much it was, to make sure that it was the same price for the item that I wanted to make the exchange for. And so in doing this, when I brought the item up there, and I said, okay, I just have an exchange to make, the lady, she said, well, you have to exchange this lotion, this cherry blossom lotion that you got, for another lotion. And so, I told her, I said, oh, well, that's odd, because, it's the same price. This, cherry blossom lotion is the same price of the Rose body wash, that I'm getting, or that I want to purchase. And she said, well, this is a policy, if you will, of the company. And so I said, okay, that's interesting. And so she was like, she mentioned something about getting a receipt. And so she was like, I'll give you a receipt, if you will, for the return. I said, well, you know what, well, I'll just put it on a gift card or what have you. Because I thought to myself, if you are telling me that I have to exchange it for another lotion, which makes no sense if it's the same price. And also, it's not like it was a different brand. if you will. It's kind of, it's very odd. It's like sometimes when you're returning something, and you're doing an even exchange, they want you to exchange it with the brand that you are returning. What does that mean? Like, for example, if I'm returning some Nike shoes, right? And I really want Reebok or what have you. If I go to make an even exchange, although they may be the same price, the person, the cashier may say, well, they're the same price, but they're a different brand. And so you need to actually find another Nike shoe as opposed to, if you were trying to mix the brands because they run different sales or something like that. There's a variation there. And so, although even that in and of itself would be, really pushing the envelope, I could see that. But she told me that I could get the rose that I wanted, but I had to get the lotion. I didn't have the option of getting the body wash, although it was the same price, and it was clearly an even exchange. And so I really started to inquire. One thing about it, when you're enduring restriction within your environment, within the matrix, and you really see that certain policies are put in place to really make your to restrict your environment and really making it difficult for you to conduct business, you really start to ask questions so you can get to the root of, why these things are happening to you within the environment. It kind of reminds me, this situation I went through really kind of reminds me of the opening scene for the movie Glory, where Oprah Winfrey, I think she goes to register to vote or something like that. And, the thing is that there was a law that, you had to know a certain amount of information in order to register to vote, or I think you had to get someone to vouch for you, something like that. So she had that. She had what the clerk or whatever, or the person that was responsible for giving her, what she needed. She had the required documentation or what have you. And so, but when she had that information, he saw that she had that information. Then he asked her to recite something that nobody could actually, recite, if you will, like by sheer rote memory. And so, I brought that point up because whenever you're vibrating at a different frequency within the matrix environment, there are definitely laws that are put in place, and policies and rules that are put in place that offer a restriction that prevents you from doing something that, originally you were able to do. So, when I was, just a regular reptilian, functioning by the way I taste, touch, smell, and hear things, 5 senses, I could just go ahead and switch something out. It's the same price, switch it out. It's not a big deal. Thank you very much. Goodbye. But because I'm vibrating at a different frequency, and and much of what, and this is spiritual. It's not just superficially. For example, like this person doesn't know what religion I am. I don't know that person from Adams. The argument could be placed that that person doesn't know you, so it's really just a very mundane, anatomical type of transference. But when you're looking at this from a spiritual sense, it is a spiritual attack. It is a spiritual attack, and you have to be spiritual, and you have to have an open pineal in order to really understand, if you will, what I'm talking about. But when she told me that, I could exchange this cherry blossom lotion for another lotion that was a different brand, or I should say not different brand, but a different fragrance, but it had to be the lotion, that doesn't make common sense. That's just saying, you know what, I'm trying to prevent you from getting what you want. Because you are bringing back a lotion. I know you want a shower gel that's the same price as this lotion. And, but I'm going to make sure that you just get the lotion itself. So really the fact that, you're exchanging a lotion for a lotion doesn't really make a whole lot of common sense. It doesn't really make any rational sense other than, I just don't want you to be able to do what you want to do. So eventually, after asking her questions and so forth, and about their policies or what have you, she just acquiesced, and she just said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you, because, I'm not really about answering these questions or what have you. And so this is what happens. A lot of times policies that are put into place they don't really make a lot of sense, and it goes to show that you're just doing things just to be nasty, or to impede my ability to do or conduct business. Just like in the movie Glory, when Oprah was trying to conduct some business, and clearly the person that she was dealing with was really just trying to be nasty to her. It wasn't that he really wanted her to recite the preamble, the Constitution, or whatever he asked her to do. It was, I want to make sure that I create barriers, and by creating barriers, create laws and rules and different things like that, guidelines that is going to prevent you from actually having the things that you want. And so, if when you look at the transference or the transaction that I have with her, it goes to show that, it could be an everyday occurrence, but these are things that I experience on a very regular basis, and trying to conduct business. And, it's just something just to add to my gang stalking compilation. So I have very good, or very strong examples, but I also have very, I guess what you would say, examples that could kind of go either way. So I wanted to give you a combination of the two, because again, with gang stalking, it's the frequency of these things as opposed to just the isolated incidences themselves. Okay. And also too, I wanted to point out some other things as well. When it comes to gang stalking, and this happened more so when I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. I had moved to Atlanta, and after I was forced from that first job. If you look at my first gang stalking video, when I left that school at E.L. Wright, I had went to another school, got a job in another school in Atlanta, Georgia, and I really started to experience a lot of more gang stalking programming there. And, I had really been well versed in a lot of occult information, and being well versed in a lot of occult information, I really at this time was trying to, I guess what you would say, meet an initiation. Whenever your pineal gland opens and you are subjected to a lot of information and knowledge, it's almost like you go through an initiation, if you will. Are you when you look at Freemasonry and secret societies and things like that, it's like it's really about, are you able to handle this knowledge and use this knowledge to to attain more knowledge, or to achieve a certain I guess what you say, goal or what have you. And so and doing A Course in Miracles and stuff like that, I I really wanted to really use my spirituality for good, and to be a disciple, if you will, of God. And I wanted to write a book. Eventually I did, but the initial book I wrote, or what have you, was crap because I was going through a lot of gang stalking programming. But when you look at A Course in Miracles and stuff like that, it really talks about you making decisions for God and thinking with the Holy Spirit, and it's a very insidious mind control doctrine. And so in doing A Course in Miracles and reading up on various occult, I would say spiritual topics, such as, one of them I was reading was the Complete Ascension Manual. It talks about initiations. And so, and looking at the Complete Ascension Manual, and trying to, level off my emotional body and mental body and things like that, with all the gang stalking, I felt that I wasn't meeting the mark. And in feeling that I wasn't meeting the mark, I felt like I got an F, pretty much. I was getting an F in all of the different, obstacles and things like that I was facing. And so at one point, I started to see license plates. I started to, as I would be on the road or what have you, I would start to see license plates with the letter CF on it. And so, at first I thought, okay, it's just a license plate with CF. There's license plates all over the place. They have different letters and numbers or what have you. There's no real connection to this. But I started to see CF license plates, all the time. like every day, I would see CF license plates. And so in corresponding to the Complete Ascension Manual and A Course in Miracles and the spiritual doctrines that I was doing, I equated that was like a sign. You know, it talks about signs in the Bible. Well, I equated that to being a sign that I was effing up, so to speak. And, you know, my first name starts with a C. And so, you know, I was like, okay, well, that's God telling me that, you know, I'm getting an F. You know, I'm getting an F. And trying to pass these initiations and really, you know, acquiring knowledge and using that knowledge to be closer to Him in some type of way or what have you. And, you know, and seeing these license plates every day, and I do mean every day, I started to, you know, it really worked on my self-esteem, because I had been doing everything I possibly could and knew how to do to live up to God's expectations. And I really was, you know, just distraught. And so one day, and I did pick one particular day, I decided to tape this because I said to myself, there's something wrong with this. This is not normal. This is not natural. And so I taped a day going out in my car. And every time that I saw a license plate that said CF on it, I took a picture of the license plate. And within one day, I saw about maybe 7 or more, maybe 6 or 7 license plates with CF. It may have been more, it might have been 8 of them. But I'm going to put them on a video so you can see this. And one of the cars that had the CF license plate said Diablo, which stands for devil. And, you know, I said to myself that I'm really experiencing what I call sensory, not deprivation, but sensory overstimulation. That's what I call it, where your psychological mind is being embellished because certain things are brought into your view, right, to your viewpoint, that are significant to you. And because they're significant to you, it causes you to go into your thinking mind as opposed to your feeling body. And just kind of, you know, going about your day, what have you. Like if I'm dropping my daughter off to school, you know, when I was a normal reptilian brain centered, you know, what you can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear, there was just no issue. There was just no problem. You know, I would just not pay attention to license plates. It's not a big deal. But once my third eye opened, my pineal gland was stimulated, then everything that I did not see as a reptilian, I saw. And when I saw all of these things and the significance behind them in correlation to what I was doing, the doctrines that I was observing and the books that I was reading during that time, they had significance for me. And so, you know, it's not normal. It is not normal, even from the reptilian brain, to see license plates that have CF on them. You know, maybe if you see 1 or 2, that's fine. But when you see license plates that actually have a CF, you know, almost 8 of them, and one of them says devil on it, that's an issue. And the thing is that, you know, I had went to Orlando, actually. I had went to Orlando, may have been like a year after this, what have you. And, you know, in Orlando, I was really, you know, wrestling spiritually with things. And I, you know, and really, you know, kind of contemplating a lot of, you know, the programming and stuff like that I had, you know, gone through, what have you. And in doing so, there's a Georgia license plate in Orlando, and it had CF on it. And so, you know, these things can be, you know, explained away. You know, a rational reptilian brain person will say, oh, you know, there's tons of license plates that have CF on them. But when you see about 7 or 8 of them in one day, and you've been practicing initiations, if you will, from the occult, in books like the Complete Ascension Manual and A Course in Miracles, and then, you know, seeing the significance of the frequency of that license plate in one day. And then if you go to another state and you see that license plate, that is what you would call a spiritual attack. It is a spiritual attack. And so it's a type of gang stalking, if you will. And another video I'm going to show you is when I was in the airport in Atlanta. So, not Atlanta, in Orlando. So, in Orlando, I saw the CF license plate just like I saw the CF license plates all the time in Atlanta. And that particular one day, and seeing it. But, about 7 or 8 of them maybe. But, when I was in the airport in Orlando, wrestling with, all the programming and stuff like that, and it was really breaking me down. I went into one of the stores in the airport, and when I was looking at the candy, I was in the candy section. When I looked in the candy section, there was a tag, and the tag said Minds on it. It said basically like you buy Minds, MINDS, for I think it was like $3 and some change. And so I was really afraid when I saw this. I said to myself, I felt at that time within my heart that I was going crazy, and that, the so-called devil was taking my mind with all the programming that would embellish my psychological mind. And to see in the airport that they had something there that said Minds on it, like they were selling minds. To me, that was crazy. And if you look at it, the picture, if you will, it looks like, well, if you look behind the Minds, it was Tic Tacs. It was Tic Tacs. It wasn't like a candy that was Minds or what have you. And I even looked on Google. I was like, let me look on Google to see if there's like some type of Minds candy. Because one thing you want to do when you're going through gang stalking, mind torture programming, you want to really explain it away. You want to rationalize it. That is what your reptilian brain does. Wants to see it as just something that, you're reading into. But no, they actually advertised selling minds at the airport in Orlando. And so the fact that the CF license plates that I saw all the time in Atlanta, I also saw an Atlanta tag or a Georgia tag in Orlando. And just, looking at all the gang stalking, mind torture program that I've been going through, you see that there's a connection there, there's a correlation there. And so I just wanted to point that out. So there's 3 different videos I'm going to show after this. One is the video from Bath and Body Works, and the other one is the Minds the Minds that they're selling at the airport. And also one is the Atlanta video where I see CF license plates, about maybe, I want to say this is a good 6 or 7, maybe 8 various CF license plates in one day. So guys, thanks for watching my video, and I will see you in my next one.